Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Welcome back to the show, Erin Graybill. Today we're going to be chatting with Erin. Of course, Erin's been on a number of times before. We've done her in depth, so make sure you go to sellersessions.com and search Erin Graybill. But today we're going to be doing another sessions of open brands as part of our season of open brands, where most Amazon sellers, quite rightly so in most cases, hide what they do, what they sell, etc., for the fear of retribution. But there are a few people that tend to have no problem stepping up to the plate for various different reasons. So, Erin, today, welcome back. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here. Thanks so much, Danny.
You're more than welcome. All right, so let's take it all the way back to the beginning. Let's start with the name of the brand and what you do.
Yes. So I have a couple brands, but pretty much my baby that's been with me since the beginning, 2014, is a brand called NIRE Beauty. So it's cosmetic accessories and tools. And most of what we sell under the brand are award-winning makeup brushes.
Award-winning. Where did these awards
multi-award winning.
Multi.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. But that's like one thing, I guess, there's like so many stories since the beginning of NIRE Beauty.
Give some highlights. You've won a few awards. What was the most for you personally? What was the most rewarding?
The most rewarding, I think nothing hit more. I guess like the most special was the very first award we ever won, which was a Scandinavian award for best makeup brush set. But I will say, for everyone who's listening, what I didn't know before I started a brand is I thought that you actually just like waited for like an award body to just like knock on your door and be like, oh, hey, you get award. Like, no, absolutely not. People get awards because they apply for awards. So the reason we're multi-award winning, fair enough. Like, okay, we have great products, but we're also extremely strategic with what awards we choose to enter because you have to pay to play. So yeah, but it's something I'm proud of within the brand because that's part of how we've tried to differentiate ourselves. But again, a lot of these types of things, it's like once you kind of see the man behind the curtain, you know, a lot of this is like PR and things that you do for yourself. So yeah, they're great brushes, but I mean, come on, we entered these awards.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen this. I think maybe a few people in the community. I haven't got a problem with it, but I just that there's other people like people reach out to you and they'll go, "Do you want to go on the cover of Entrepreneurs, etc., etc." And so you know, it looks very impressive, but basically you paid for that spot. Basically, it's a good bit of personal brand. It's not my cup of tea, but I can see why people do it. And there's being strategic. There's difference, I suppose, when you're doing it for yourself on a strategic level and a brand, which is going to help with the conversion rate. So I imagine knowing you and as long as I've known you, you're not up your own arse or anything, you know, you're just very down to earth.
No, not at all.
So this isn't about you getting awards for yourself. You're doing it. It's like I run a business. And if I do good products and able to get awards for those, I'm going to sell more units and I'm in business to make a living as well as make a difference in terms of the makeup that you're selling. True?
Absolutely. And actually part of the reason we even did that is we sell on Amazon, but we also spent a few years building our off Amazon B2B sales. Yep. So it was really important for us to be award winning for that reason as well, because we did some research and worked with some people that had a lot of experience kind of into big box retailers, that kind of stuff. And they actually really value the awards. So it was off the back of strategy. I will say the one award that does not cost anything to enter that we did win as a company was the Queen's Award, but that was based more off like the things we've done with charities, et cetera. So that's the one thing I will say. It's not paid to play with that one, but all the other ones, as far as for the brand, NIRE Beauty, absolutely you have to enter, but there was a strategic reason. So it's part of what I say within when I bring up the makeup brushes, because we've worked so hard to make them the highest quality possible, which goes farther, I'd say, off Amazon than on Amazon. But it's still important to us because that's part of how the whole company was founded, with a obsession with high quality products.
Absolutely. So how did it all start? Where did the initial idea come from? Because I mean, before I finish asking you that question, I know what a struggle you had. I remember you came here a number of years ago. You were in a high-paying 6-figure job. I think it was in finance from memory.
Yeah.
You come to the UK and you could not get arrested. you couldn't get a job, let alone a 6-figure job, and you end up in a shoe shop and waiting bars,
I was selling
etc.,
charms.
etc. You had a grind.
Yeah, that's the whole in depth. You've heard the whole story, but hey, pressure makes diamonds in life. So yeah, I basically ended up going back to university.
Yeah.
And I got this scholarship, and then I wanted to kind of make some extra money on the side. So as passionate as I am about makeup brushes now, the way everything started, I was like, hey, okay, I want to try this Amazon thing. So I identified 2 product niches just off the back of using the 999 method in some of the top browse nodes here in the UK. So within beauty, I saw some makeup brushes that were selling, and I was like, oh, those don't look very nice. I bet I could do better. But I didn't actually know anything about it. And I also started with men's wallets, but that's not the brand we're talking about now. So in the very, very beginning, I was kind of like, hey, this looks like an opportunity. Then I started getting samples, and literally I knew nothing. I had like 3 like awful old Real Technique brushes that like I never ever washed. Like I was not an expert at all. But then I became really obsessed with trying to find like a better way. So that's how it all started in the beginning with makeup brushes. I was like, okay, I think these competitors, of course, order the competitor, unbox them, just as being like a highly discerning customer. I was like, oh, I feel like definitely we could provide better. I say we, it was me at the time. I could provide better value, got some samples through. And so that's really how the makeup brushes were born. But the actual brand, I sold my first makeup brushes December 2014, but the NIRE beauty brand didn't actually come to life until 2015. I had a brand that was a different name that I didn't realize I couldn't use. So, yeah.
Excellent. So what year did you start? It was 2014, and was it UK only that you started with?
Yeah.
And where did
UK only.
where did it was, and where did the manufacturing process start? Was it from Europe, UK? Where did you go to originally start that process?
It was from China. Yeah. So
it was
what I did in the very it was for the makeup brushes. So actually it was kind of a really bootstrappy way to start. So I did the research, and this is like how fast once I decided I wanted to do it. It was probably mid-October 2014. I found the 2 niches, and I just basically made this PDF like like a request for quote, and got all these samples in the next fortnight after that. And then I was lucky enough that I found a set that, because I also didn't have that much money. So it was a makeup brush set that is like kind of similar to our top selling set now. It's how it started. It's like the prehistoric version that the supplier is like, okay, if you like this one, that we have 300 units that basically it was like left over from someone else's order. So the brand was like one that I had never heard of. I Googled it, and I was like, okay, well, fine. I'll sell this, and I'll act like the brand name is just like a description. I won't really mention it. And it was a really great way for me to be able to like throw my first listing up there without having to order thousands of units, especially when I just had, I don't know, like £1,000 to start with, like not very much. So it was really a great way to test kind of your basic product within makeup brushes. Did all the keyword research, took pictures of my own little white box on my iPhone, and then ended up selling them all that December because we didn't have to wait for manufacturing. I basically said, okay, sample's good. And she just sent me the 300 that she had kicking around in the warehouse. So by the time they all sold, except I put 10 of them aside, which I'll say with part of the story, is I thought they looked good enough. And I was like, okay, they're selling. And then after that, I was faced with like an opportunity to be like, okay, I can just order a lot more the way they are. But at that point, I really realized what was going to be the most important part to the business with me is really ensuring the highest quality products. So then I was like, I actually don't know. I'm saying they're good. I'm saying they're professional, saying all the right keywords. But I was like, I don't know if they're actually good. So I kept 10 of them aside, and I went to just makeup artists and estheticians, either that I knew or I didn't know. Just go to like the shopping mall, start talking to people, be like, hey, I'll give you this free set on one condition. They're like, okay, what's that? I was like, will you tell me what you don't like about it? And I thought it was kind of, British people are more polite too. They're just like, why would I do that? And I was like, because I don't need your flattery. I was like, basically, if you receive this as a gift, or if you were going to use this professionally, is there anything that's crap? Anything that you'd want better? If you tell me, I promise I'll change it. And they're kind of like, okay. And I had some amazing feedback. Amazing. So every variation So then I ordered my next, I think, 1,000 units after that under a different brand name. From the 300, I put it in a box and added some extra things, because literally it was just like a case in a poly bag, those first 300. But I was lucky. 2014 was a different world.
Different
in
beast
the UK.
then, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think I pressed for PPC. I just pressed auto. That was it. And I think my ACOS was so good by the time I looked. Those are your options. You have basic, manual. Yeah. It was crazy. So yeah, from there, every iteration that I'd be ordering, I kept changing and changing, having more makeup artists. Instead of having the 10, there would be probably about 3 that I would be working with from there, to really try to make things as good as possible. Start looking towards bundling the set. So it really was an obsession with product quality. In hindsight, I could have sold a lot more crapper products at the time. And I suppose I could have scaled the business faster, but I became pretty much obsessed, because I always believe the customer is my boss. So if they're not happy, if their expectations aren't exceeded, I also didn't ethically feel right being okay, well, I'll just get them something crap, but I can take the pictures and make it look good. So it was just something, that connection, that I never wanted to sell anything that I would be embarrassed if I met a customer. That was always what I would think to myself, even if I could have made a bit more money. So
basically your expertise came from is the fact that you, for the better word of it, you went to see professionals and you got them to talk about themselves, which a lot of people like to do. And in that area, you were saying, look, this is what I want to do, but are these actually good enough? Can you be brutally honest with me? I want critical feedback. And then basically they gave away all of their skill set, and then you documented that, and then you made better brushes. It's that simple, right? Yeah. That's what I'm saying. The whole point I've run through that exercise is that anyone can do that. So even though you didn't know much about those things, all you had to do is appeal to someone and say, hey, I'm being humble here. I ain't got a fucking clue what I'm doing, but you seem like a really nice person and I'm very good at taking criticism. Can you share all of your knowledge for free? And then I'll compliment you on your skill set, and then I'll go and build a multi-million-pound company.
But it was also they really liked.
Do you know what I mean? Where I come from?
Well. Yeah, yeah, no, it's true. But it's if someone's passionate about something, you just ask, what do you think of this powder brush? And the fact that the original quality of the brushes, they were good. It was just potentially there was a weird eyeshadow brush. So there was a couple things that we could make better, and it was learning about all those types of things. So it was also an exchange. They were just really, you'd give me this whole free set? I was like, is that all you want? And so that was the crazy thing about it, is when you realize how passionate some people are. But then it was interesting, a couple of years later, it got to the point where we just had to cap it, because then I started to realize too that every makeup artist has a different opinion as well. So it's kind of you can't ever have the perfect 12 to 14 brush set, because it's all relative. But you could equalize
the data, can't you? You could speak to a load of people, look for the commonalities, and then obviously there'll be. But the fact is, you've got access to all of those people. It costs you nothing other than being a bit cheeky and polite, and isn't it? Really, it's just going in in a phone response, if you like, to say, look, this is what I want to do. Can you help me out here? Blah blah blah. Tell me what your thoughts are on feedback. It's just that's how easy stuff is, but most people don't want to do it. And I say the same thing. If you want to get feedback on a product, you go out into the street and coffee shop. No one does it. No one. Zero. We all talk about it, but no one does it. It's so easy to do, but no one wants to do it because they're afraid of rejection or whatever. Yeah.
But it also depends on if you find people that are passionate about it, they're going to want to talk about it. So it's I would
That's
be,
true.
You go to the Estee Lauder counter or something, and people are selling you stuff. I was like, what's the most popular lip brush? What do you just kind of ask, and of course they're going to tell you. And I'm like, well, why do you like it? So you can ask those types of things. So it's I don't even feel like it's cheeky, because if someone asks me I don't sell skincare, but I'm obsessed with it. If someone's like, oh, what do you use for this? I'd be like, it's kind of you find people that enjoy geeking out about it anyway. So, so then it got the first, I guess, a huge moment for me at the time, because I was on my own. I'm still a student. And I remember I was doing my customer service. So this was probably a year-ish after I developed. I think NIRE had been trademarked at that point. And I got a message through buyer seller messages from an actual makeup artist in the UK that was holding real master classes. So she had like a little school, and she wanted to buy the NIRE brush set because she's like, I'm kind of looking on Amazon. And she's like, it looks like this is like a really, really professional level makeup brush set. And I don't think your reviews are fake. I actually believe it. Like, can we kind of do a deal? So I was like, oh my God, look at me, B2B, a real makeup artist. So that was like a huge thing. So I ended up finding a sly way to like get her out of buyer seller messaging. You know, I think I just like stalked her online, and I was like, hey, this is better. So I ended up going down to Scarborough and seeing the masterclass in action and seeing how like she taught with the brushes, and got tons of feedback. And then actually we had started selling in Europe too, and liaising with makeup artists in Italy, in France. And then we went through a whole, gosh, it was probably 2017. We did it the most a bit in 2018, where we sponsored a lot of masterclasses. So we have so much content and information of NIRE brushes being used all over the place. And some people that still actually, there's a school in Paris and a school in Italy every year that reorder. Yeah. And I say still because we actually, it's, I guess, part of the long stories. It isn't the most profitable thing for us to do the smaller B2B orders. So we direct them to the website with like a voucher code now, but some of the ones that order more so, it still goes every year. So NIRE is still being, you know, taught within in master classes, but it's just not, it's not where the brand could have been scaled.
Mm-hmm. What year was it when you got to your first million?
2018, the very end. Yeah.
2018. So it took about three and a half years, because by the time you got started, late 2014, right? So about 3.5.
Yeah. I was like, I say 2015 sometimes. I'm like, because I sold basically for like 3 weeks in December, but technically I did. So, all right. So yeah. And it was just, me on my own.
Then 3 years. So let's say that's 3 years, but don't forget there was a lot of work when involved there. As you said, you could have scaled faster. You slowed everything down by focusing on quality of production, right?
Yeah. So, and I do think there's arguments on ways you could have built the business, but I think that was the thing is I looked at Amazon as a way to sell products, not a way just to be an Amazon seller, if you will. And so because of, I guess, the obsession with product quality and how we worked so much with makeup artists, and we did actually go through making custom sets for some makeup artists as well, where we would be like, okay, if you're, doing a school for like 30 students, we'll put a little capsule collection together for you. So we were quite particular about each individual brush, but then I was ready for opportunities for B2B because we didn't just sell Amazon products. So we ended up selling direct into some retail beauty boxes across Northern Europe and Europe for a few years too. And if we hadn't done all the technical research about each individual brush, we wouldn't have been able to be like, okay, now we can do anywhere between 2,000 to 200,000 individual brushes, make a custom one for you, anything you like because of that. Otherwise, it would just be like, oh, we just have these SKUs, don't even know much about each individual brush. So it wasn't wasted. It actually opened up whole new opportunities where 50% of our revenue for a couple of years was off Amazon, working direct with companies, doing some individual brushes and cosmetic accessories for them due to our technical knowledge.
Yeah. So how's that shaped over the years? So how many products do you have in the line now?
In the line for NIRE?
Yeah.
Well, see, there's the on Amazon versus off, because we have, probably a few hundred individual brushes and probably like 200 as far as like we have tweezers. We have a lot of things that we can do that we aren't selling on Amazon. Either we have done as a
because
one-off.
of the low unit price and the fees and stuff, it just doesn't work.
Absolutely not. That does not work at all. So it's actually interesting is all of the individual brushes and the more, I guess, variety of individual products, none of those are on Amazon. So right now we have a couple different sets, makeup brush sets that we're doing on Amazon in the UK, Europe, and in North America. But it's actually been interesting over the last few years. We have cut a few SKUs on Amazon for that reason, is that if people don't have the technical knowledge, we had a couple sets that looked quite similar. That makeup artist totally knew why you needed both of these sets and the differences between the two. But people on Amazon are like, well, they kind of look similar. Why would I need both? So then we really, really focused on volume and profitability. So got rid of a few of the kind of less selling SKUs. So we don't actually have that many different makeup brush sets that we sell on Amazon, but we sell a lot of the same ones. So we're just launching in different colors as opposed to launching new makeup brush sets. Yeah.
Gotcha. So it seems to me, if I pick this up right, is that your heavy investment in terms of getting inside the minds of professionals could have had a bit of a detrimental effect on your Amazon customers because they can't tell the difference. So you've gone so nuanced with it that it's gone over their heads, but the pros love it.
Yeah.
And so that could cap your market slightly.
It totally did. Yeah, it absolutely did. So that whole, like, that's why I said we don't work direct with the people doing the academies, those kind of things. Like they still come to us, the kind of people from before, but no. So as far as like brand building there, it was like really, I'd say a whole year that you only know in hindsight that I'm not going to say a waste of time at all because I learned a lot, but no, it definitely, we realized too that like the pro market is not, we could be like a cult favorite with, you know, like a whole bunch of Italian makeup artists. Okay, great. But when it comes to like mass market,
you can't put profile in the bank. That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, we have so much content of like NIRE being used here, there, everywhere, you know, but it just wasn't selling to the mass market. It was a frustrating thing. So it really helped with the B2B. The retail subscription boxes, that was loads, but then that whole market has changed quite a bit with Brexit and then the recession and people's like customer habits changing as well. So I feel like NIRE has really weathered a lot of storms and it's kind of back to like its cash cow products on Amazon, even if it's like expanded out and done other things, but it's kind of the core, some of our core ASINs that have like 5-6K reviews. Those are the ones that have earned their place, you know?
Yeah. So where are you in terms of the breakdown? Because obviously you do retail, you got your own store, you're on Amazon, you're on other marketplaces. How does that break down? The percentages in the pie, what does that look like? Amazon's what percent, retail's X percent? How does that look for you on the bird's eye view?
Yeah, retail probably this year will be 30%, I'd say. And then we're really not doing much on the website because we're putting literally like not much money into it anyway. So it's mostly Amazon as far as the direct to market. Before Brexit, we were starting to do okay on the website with no advertising because all of our B2B customers were just buying, but we had to basically like, we were offline for like a year. So yeah, the direct to customer hasn't been a huge priority also because within beauty, we don't do consumables yet. We're going to be launching a lip scrub set with one of our lip brushes in the UK. Keep an eye out for that in fourth quarter. So
I will do. Yeah, you know me. I do love a little lippy. Yeah.
No, it's lovely. I'm gonna send one.
No, I'm sure Cheryl will enjoy some of the samples.
But she's got some NIRE brushes. I take care of you.
I
guys.
know you took care of her and Maya, so thank you. So what going forward now? You've seen margin suppression. You know the way that Amazon's going at the moment. It's been tough for a lot of people. Obviously, people are still winning, but you know, so it's been tough, more so than easy for a lot of people, I would say. Now, how have you been weathering that storm? Because you said going back to where it was before that you've weathered some storms. Let's talk about some of the storms that you faced and how you passed through them.
Okay, I guess from the beginning, I guess the first storm was when I had a brand that wasn't NIRE Beauty. And I think that's something that when people are launching new things, you should always definitely check in your IP databases wherever you are, because I won't say the brand name that I first did, where I thought putting an umlaut over one of the letters would be like, it's different enough, it'll be fine. And so I had sold probably because I had those first 300 units that were just like a whatever. I think it said velvet on it. I have no idea where that came from. And then I had that other brand that I had invested in packaging and a website and sold probably like 4K units until I was like, okay, I should actually look at a trademark for that. And then I met with a lawyer, and she's basically like, Oh yeah, it's similar enough that I would say that it doesn't matter now, but when you get big enough that it will matter, they can sue you for every pound of profit you've ever had. And I was like, cheers. Oh, great.
Yeah.
So from there, that was kind of a challenge of recalling the inventory. And then also it became like, okay, if I'm going to find a brand name, especially within beauty, and I really had this vision of wanting it to be an off Amazon brand, is what the heck do I actually do for a brand name? So I'm sitting there like on with the European database, because I was just selling in the UK and Europe at the time. And I had no idea, because she's like, as far as, you know, if you talk to a lawyer about it, they're like, let's say that there's like a makeup artist in Australia that has a similar name that just has a Facebook page. They can come back and sue you. All these people can sue you. So it's like all the names. So it's actually, this is not, it's kind of like not like a fun fact, but it's something I never really mentioned. But the name NIRE Beauty, it's like, what the heck is NIRE? Well, I was just sitting there, literally, I had like a whole week of like, oh, I just cannot think of a brand name. What do I do? And I just put like my head in my hands, and I like looked down, and I had a business card because I was a PhD student. I looked down and it said Erin Graybill, and I was Erin Graybill. I was like, huh. I was like, wait a second. I was like, what if I put my first name backwards and threw an accent on there? Because I really like the idea of something being like internationally ambiguous. And I think as an American, like living abroad, I was kind of like, I know for some of us Americans, we're like, ooh, it's foreign. Sounds fancy, right? You know, what is it? So then I was like, okay, my name backwards. I'm like, NIRE. Ooh, that's not really good. But I was like, ooh, if I put the accent over the E, I'm like, NIRE. I'm like, what's that? You don't even know, right? And so it was funny because I have a lot of friends from different countries. One of my best friends is from Lithuania. And I was like, not telling people why. I was like, hey, what do you think of the name NIRE for a brand? She's like, she's like, that could be like a cute nickname for a Lithuanian. And then, you know, I was out to lunch with someone from France, and he's like, oh, NIRE. He's like, that is French. It's definitely French. You know, then I was like playing volleyball with someone everyone thought it was from somewhere else. I was like, nobody knows. I was like, this is good. So it had nothing to do with it being my name, but that's where, and I was like, and I looked in the database for trademarks, and I was like, poof, nothing there. Nice. So that was like where the actual like brand name came. So that was a big challenge that I'm like, no, I'm not going to let this problem, you know, because I was like thinking big. I was like, I don't want to be at a point where they're going to come at me. And I was like, oh, with NIRE Beauty, they can't. So I got a logo put together. It was like a Romanian graphic designer that I found on like Upwork or something. And at the time I had worked with him a lot, and he always spoke with what he said. He's like, I actually like this, you know? So I was like, okay. So that was the first challenge. That's how the brand actually came to be. And then, I mean, like a small challenge after that where I don't know, Amazon suppressed it for, someone said it wasn't authentic, and I had to recall like 700 units into my studio apartment and order new boxes and re-sticker it. But I'm sure, I don't know if everyone's gone through that, but you know, when you're actually doing things, rolling up your own sleeves, asking friends for help.
I think that's pretty common. I was waiting for something really difficult, like a suspension, shutdown, loss of money. But you've been quite lucky in that, in terms of your navigation of Amazon. So you haven't had anything like really bad, like a suspension of some kind, even if it was untoward. No.
Oh, touch wood. Actually,
there's going to be a lot of jealous Amazon sellers out there who's had it rough. But so what's the plan? What's the plan going forward? Like where you are at now, you've been growing out on the retail side of things. Do you see Amazon long term for you in terms of what you're doing with the brand, or are you focusing more so on the other platforms?
Yeah, I would say this is a very difficult strategic question, because there's every year, if you would ask, especially over the last few years, it's like the vision is always to get off Amazon because we would really like to do more premium products. That's kind of our biggest passion, is not making things cheaper to sell it more mass market. It's like doing the opposite. So actually there's something that it's an interesting story of what we tried to do one year about the Amazon Accelerator, which I don't think it exists anymore. Do you want me to get into that?
Yeah, let's do it.
That's one of the, so this was the end of 2019, the very end. So in the UK, there's a handful of us sellers that Amazon's small business team calls up for things, right? I mean, I think for me, you know, I'll go to headquarters, I'll hold the product, and because basically you get like storefront of the month, whatever, you know, I'm going to do it. So they know that I'm always going to respond. So our frustration at the end of 2019, we were like, right, okay, so we are doing really well in these Scandinavian countries of people loving the brand, like even thinking we could get into stores there at a more premium price than on Amazon, because that's what the quality actually is about. And so it was like, what's holding us back? Oh, how cheap we have to be on Amazon. Okay, we'd love to get off Amazon, but it's cart before the horse. But what's paying the bills? Amazon, right? So I was kind of thinking of ways to do this. So at the end of 2019, I get this call from like the head of the Amazon accelerator in EU based in Luxembourg. It's the head guy. And he's like, we've identified you guys. We're launching this new program called the Amazon Accelerator. We would love to invite you down to hear all about it. So I was like, I was asking all these questions, and he was like, right. So the Amazon Accelerator will be like, we either buy your brand, they wanted to buy NIRE, or you start a private label brand that it's technically an Amazon brand. It's yours until we choose to buy it from you. But as it's growing, you pay us 10% and we'll do all the marketing. And I was like, of course, because Amazon knows how to sell their own stuff. No one's going to be able to beat Amazon, right? Sounded like too good to be true.
Yeah.
At the same time, because I'm like, here's my strategy. I'm like, you can't have NIRE. No, you can't. So what we're going to do is, I go down and I meet with him. I made sure he was the one I talked to, because I was like, he's the head of the program, first one down there. And I'm telling you this because this is part of why it all blew up. So I was like, literally like, okay, we're going to do this. And I was like, no, you don't get NIRE. I was like, we get NIRE. We're going to keep NIRE. But what we will do is we're going to make an alternate brand. Okay. We're going to make a brand that's like NIRE, but it will have a different name, but it'll be the same quality, but we can even do it for a little bit cheaper and it can be yours. We don't care, right? Because we can do this. And we could actually launch it quite quickly, because you needed to have a couple products that worked. So this goes back to when I was selling things direct to makeup artists that I said we don't do anymore. I had a local makeup artist team in Newcastle that basically ordered 1,000 units, but only took 200 of them. So the supplier eventually just sent me the other 800 brushes, which we repurposed those brushes into this new accelerator brand to get a couple SKUs up to be actually like up and going. So we joined the accelerator. We are literally the first ones. And then boom, what happens? 2020, well, COVID, lockdown, etc. But we already have all of our orders. So we have an account manager. We're getting everything ready, and everything's a bit slower, but then in the meantime, so two things were happening at once. Accelerator was happening and it was not working. It was not working at all. Because we were some of the first ones to join Accelerator, the marketing never worked for us. PPC never worked. We were still paying the 10%. So it was basically failing, and we could not sell these things. So we were having to pay Amazon 10% and then also do our own PPC just to move these things. The other competitors who joined a couple months later, it was working. So even some other competitors similar to us. So we're getting our ass kicked with the accelerated product. Then also NIRE, because, if you were right place, right time at the beginning of lockdown, especially in Europe, we were selling like Christmas amounts. We were selling so many makeup brush sets at the beginning of lockdown through NIRE. So it's like we have the brand that we were NIRE. We desperately wanted to get the hell off Amazon, basically killing it. And we had our accelerator like, oh, now this is totally our strategy, failing. So then at the end of 2020, we realized, okay, Brexit is coming. What are we going to do? And so I came up with two other brands that have nothing to do with NIRE. We sold off all of the accelerator ones. That was a massive failure because it never worked. It never worked for us because there was a glitch. The people who joined first were like, oh, it just doesn't work. Okay. So, and I think they canceled the whole program in the end anyway. So then we're sitting there like NIRE's still on Amazon. We're still doing well on some of the Scandinavian retail, but then we can't get into retailers because of map pricing. So we actually were working with a distributor to get into some stores in Denmark, but couldn't do it because we were tied to Amazon, but we couldn't get off Amazon. So it was kind of like, it's like this entanglement, So I guess that was another big challenge. And the Amazon Accelerator, maybe it worked for some people, but it absolutely did not work for us. And then I was going to launch more products under NIRE, and then realized Brexit was happening. So then stopped all plans for new products on European launch and put the time and effort into two completely different brands and niches. So that's why we've got the 3 right now.
Yeah.
So there's been lots of juggling within what it is that I've done over the years.
So what does day-to-day look like for you? You're now in, where are you? You're not in Miami at the moment, but you moved to Miami, didn't you, about 1.5 years ago?
Yeah, about 1.5 years. So it's been like quite a transitional year. I was in the UK for like 14. So it's been getting used to working with my team being 5 hours apart, which has been tough because I'm huge on team, and we actually have an office, which is different. So up in Newcastle, we still have an office. And as teams grow and things change, we have a couple people moving on. So I've actually been back in the UK since mid-June. And I'll probably be here for a while more, probably another month. But it's been amazing because we've working day to day with my team again, really building up that rapport and how we work together. Because the main advantage of having an office is to always have new products in the pipeline. So we have some other launches on the other 2 brands. So NIRE, actually, besides B2B, we're launching some variations of our existing products, but we're not doing a lot on that brand. New things.
Indeed. So what's the future looking like? Would you consider an exit? I know the market for some people consider it tough at the moment, but the long-term goal, will you look to exit the brand? Take some money off the table?
Not yet. I know I'm really the outlier here, but it's just kind of building the team back up to design more products and build out these brands. I think because we've had to do so much shuffling with starting brands, retiring brands, it's like to really, really be able to build some of them out. That's really the challenge that matches more of what we built. And we work with a charity in the UK that helps with one of the brands. So we're not as typical, especially with the B2B, as far as the way the business is structured. So no, I'm the outlier. Just we're happy doing what we're doing.
And what bit of advice would you give to Amazon sellers? What's one piece of key advice you would give them?
Key advice. Ironically, I think quitting the addiction to new is the commitment to mastery. So I think that's like an example of, even within NIRE, is that there were so many different ways we could kind of go, but really, I think doing a lot more, making sure that Amazon was solid and everything was solid, your processes were solid before you do something else, especially within getting distracted. I can only say that in hindsight as much, is that stay focused on the basics before jumping to new shiny things, which is so hard for entrepreneurs. And I say that because I have to remind myself. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. And what's the best way that people can reach you?
Probably my Instagram. Yeah. It's just my name, Erin.Graybill. Because email, or LinkedIn, you can try. I don't check it. I have like 100,000 unread. So yeah, but I love the Amazon community. It's such a cool group of people.
Excellent. Guys, thank you for joining us today. Erin, again, thank you for giving up your time. Sharon will be up next. I'll see you again next week. Take care of yourself and your family. Much love, and I'll see you then.